What is up there, everybody? Citrus Sports here for yet another video. And today I have my top 25 for y'all. And so we're just going to start from 25 and walk our way up, as I think it's kind of interesting the bottom and all the way up to the top, as the previous ones I started from the top and went down because it really wasn't that interesting up top. But we're going to see I have a few changes. And so starting here from 21 through 25, I have Syracuse, Florida State, Kansas, Texas A&M, and Miami. And I realized after I made this, I should have put Appalachian State ranked ahead of Texas A&M because Appalachian State beat Texas A&M. Why am I getting these stupid calls? No, decline. And I also should have North Carolina ranked ahead of Appalachian State because Appalachian State got beat by North Carolina. So that's just my thoughts there. Those teams should have been ranked, but they're not. So anyway, Miami just below Texas A&M, even because Texas A&M beat them. What else can I say? Even though Miami, to be honest, looked better in the game, but the problem was when you got into the red zone, Miami was just unable to score, and they got away with field goals. And so that's why Texas failed to beat Alabama, and that's why Miami fails to beat Texas A&M. Texas A&M also had some things go their way as well. That nice kick return for a touchdown really helped, but Texas A&M, they still have a ton of weaknesses. I'm even considering not ranking them at all, but they're just barely in because they do have a good P5 win over Miami. Florida State, Syracuse, and Kansas, they're 3-0, and these teams all have Power 5 wins now. Kansas State has a win over West Virginia, an impressive one too, like 56-42 or something like that. Florida State has Power 5 wins over both LSU and Louisville. And the Louisville one was a Friday night game on the road. That's the sort of game that a team tends to lose. But Florida State, they are finding ways to win. Sort of the opposite of my team, Nebraska. But Florida State's just finding ways to win. And Syracuse, they have a Power 5 win over Louisville and Purdue. And so these wins are looking pretty impressive right now. And so these teams on the top 25, I could definitely see LSU get into the top 25 here soon if they continue to win like they are currently. But of course, they'd be ranked below Florida State because Florida State did beat them. Number 16 through 20, here we have Oregon, BYU, Baylor, Texas, and Ole Miss. I'm just going to talk about Oregon, BYU, and Baylor for a second. I don't understand why people have Baylor ranked ahead of BYU because at this point in the season, there's not a whole lot of data. And BYU beat Baylor. Same thing for Oregon. Oregon beat BYU. And so I have Oregon ranked ahead of BYU and BYU ranked ahead of Baylor because one beat the other and the other beat the other. So it just makes sense to me. Now, Oregon's loss to Georgia doesn't look too bad because Georgia is just, spoiler, the best team in the country and it's not even close. BYU has a good win over Baylor, but BYU did lose to Oregon in what turned out to be a blowout, really. Oregon controlled that game. And with the way they're playing right now, this might be a top 10, maybe even top 5 team. We'll just have to see. But for now, I have Oregon ranked at 16. Texas, they're down here because they played a really close game to Alabama. They did struggle with UTSA, but in the second half, they really got it going, and the offense started clicking. There was a little bit of a hangover from the Alabama loss. And sometimes teams lose twice because Alabama can be a team twice because of just the way they physical and they just dominate opponents to the point where they can break a team mentally. And Texas, they came back. They didn't get defeated, which is something that I didn't see from last year's Texas team, so I'm impressed by that. Ole Miss destroyed Georgia Tech 42-0. That was an impressive win. Now it's kind of hard to tell, is Georgia Tech just that bad or is Ole Miss that good? Guess we'll have to wait to see throughout the season, but I'm impressed with Ole Miss so far. Number 11 through 15, I do have Minnesota here at number 11. I'm a lot higher on Minnesota than a lot of people are. Right now, they're beating their opponents something like 150 to like 20. It's like not even close. Minnesota has in the past struggled with out-of-conference games, but that is not happening this year at all. Minnesota is destroying their opponents. Mo Ibrahim is as good as advertised, and Something that was really underrated about Minnesota was their pass defense last year was number 3 in the country. A lot of people don't realize that. I think Minnesota's pass defense was better than Georgia's last year, and that looks just as good this year. The difficulties they had with losing offense and defensive linemen doesn't seem to have shown up yet. Now maybe once they play a Big Ten schedule it will, but for now, Minnesota looks like one of the best teams in the country, and I picked them to win the Big Ten West in the preseason, and so far that's looking very likely, considering the fact that the Big Ten West is currently going out, stubbing their toes on each other, and just trying to find ways to lose games. The entire Big Ten West is basically garbage, with the exception of Minnesota. So at this point, they pretty much have an easy win ahead of them. Oklahoma State have here 12. I mean, they're taking care of business, except for in the first game of the season. Their defense looked a little shaky, but ever since then, seems like they're doing all right now. It sort of looks like the Big 12 is a 4-team race, essentially, between Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Baylor, and Texas, and maybe Iowa State. We'll have to see how Iowa State does against Baylor this week. That'll be a pretty big game to determine who makes it to the Big 12 title. But Oklahoma State are doing what they need to. They're winning for now. But once again, just like some last year and I think the year before, Oklahoma State has a really soft beginning schedule, but it gets more difficult as the season goes on. Florida have 13, Utah 14. Florida beat Utah, so it's very important to put them there. Florida did lose to Kentucky, though, in a game that wasn't really close. And Florida has some very obvious warts that are apparent. The passing game doesn't exist, and the defense leaves some things to be desired. But Florida's looking decent. Utah has bounced back from the loss fairly easily, just put a couple cupcakes and no problem. I'm really interested to see how Utah's going to go throughout the rest of the season. How the rest of the season's going to go, I think, will determine a lot. They do have USC in a couple of weeks, and that's probably essentially going to be almost like a quasi Pac-12 title game. We'll have to see how that goes, but it's almost like essentially whoever loses that is not out of the Pac-12 title, but it's going to be more difficult, and the winner of that basically is guaranteed to make the Pac-12 title. So that'll be a big game in a couple weeks. Arkansas have 15. They have been struggling with teams all season, but once again they find ways to win. So we'll just have to see how they do against Texas A&M. I do feel that Arkansas's weaknesses aren't going to be something that Texas A&M can exploit, because Arkansas has struggled defensively in general, but also defensively against the pass, and Texas A&M has a terrible passing game, so maybe that won't really show up. But it'll be a difficult game to play Texas A&M anyway. The defense looks legit. It looks like maybe the best defense in the country, or second best defense just behind Georgia. So Texas A&M, Arkansas this week will be a good game, and really interested to see how that goes. Number 6 through 10. Yes, I do have Kentucky in here at number 6. They have dominated every team that they have played. Now, the first game of the year was a little bit rough, but it's the first game of the year. You can sort of forgive that. They did defeat Florida pretty comfortably, and they played a nobody, 31-0. That is the first shutout that Kentucky has had since 2009. So they haven't shut out a team since then until they beat whoever it was they beat, 31-0. So that's pretty impressive. Kentucky right now looks like a true contender in the East, and generally the SEC East has looked much improved this season. At number 7, I have USC. The offense looks amazing. The defense also looks pretty decent. They are opportunistic. They are, again, a lot of picks. But we'll have to see what happens when they play a better team. And I think we're going to see that soon when they play Oregon State this week. So that'll be a decent test for them. And then in a few weeks they play Utah, which I think will be the real test. Number 8, we have Penn State. This team is as good as what a lot of people thought it would be. Or better, really. Because a lot of people want the high on Penn State. I thought they'd be pretty good. I thought they would bounce back this season. And so far they're doing that. The thing is, Penn State last year really wasn't that bad, but there were some key injuries that occurred halfway through the season that completely derailed their season. And I think this year we're going to see the Penn State team we thought we would see last year, except this team looks pretty good. Nicholas Singleton, he is amazing. He's a true freshman, and that guy looks awesome. And they have another back, I forget his false name, is like A.J. Allen or something like that. Well, A.J. Allen's at Nebraska, but there's a someone else, Allen, at Penn State that looks really good as well. Sean Clifford, I don't think he's as bad as people think he is. I mean, he doesn't generally do much to lose you the game, so I don't really see an issue with him. And their tight end room looks amazing this year. So, Penn State top 10 team, and they're going to be a true contender in the Big Ten East. And then we have Clemson at 9. I'm still concerned about this team. Defensively, they actually don't look as good as we thought they'd be, but offensively, they're slightly better than last year. Will that translate to more wins? I don't know, but they have a test against Wake Forest this weekend, and I think that'll tell us a lot about Clemson. At number 10, we got Tennessee. The offense looks incredible. Now, we're going to see what happens when they play a team for Pulse here in the Florida Gators, but when they played Pitt, they really should have lost, but they found a way to win. So that's something we haven't seen a Tennessee team do in a while. One through 5, this is going to be a bit controversial because I know most people still have Alabama at number 2, but I'm still concerned about what we saw in that Texas game, and I'm just not as confident in them as I was. And I think we have to see what happens when they play more real competition. I think this week they play Vanderbilt, so that really isn't going to tell us a whole lot. I mean, Vanderbilt's not terrible this year, but I don't know if the Vanderbilt game is going to really tell us or really answer any of the questions that we want to know about Alabama. So I have Alabama here 5. I'm not saying they're terrible. I'm just saying I have some concerns. And number 4, I have Ohio State. When I watch this team, their defense looks better than last year. It actually looks decent. But I don't know what it is. There's something when I watch this offense play that concerns me. I just don't know what it is exactly. It almost seems like they're a little bit out of rhythm, and I don't understand why. But that's just my initial thought. I can't really explain it. It's just something seems off when I watch this offense play. Now, obviously, they have some key injuries, which don't help them. JSN is out for now, but he'll be back soon. But still, I'm just kind of concerned about this Ohio State team, and I don't even exactly know why. But I have them at 4th because they still look like one of the best teams in the country. Michigan has done what they need to, so I have them ahead of Ohio State. They have, frankly, against the terrible teams, looked better. Now, Ohio State has played better competition, but Michigan State has done everything you could ask them to do. They have killed every opponent they have played so far this season. I think they've only allowed 17 points all season so far, and they just blanked whoever the nobody school, I think it was UConn they played. They destroyed them, 59-0. And J.J. McCarthy is going to be able to take this team farther than Cade McNamara could. So, Michigan at number 3. They look better than Ohio State. I don't know what I can say. I know a lot of people aren't going to be a big fan of that, but for now, Michigan looks better than Ohio State. And another controversial pick, I have Oklahoma at number 2. Now, yes, I am a Nebraska fan, and Oklahoma completely embarrassed us last weekend. But they did what they had to, and they looked really, really, really good doing it. And Oklahoma, they have a real defense. And their offense looks no worse than it was last year. So I have Oklahoma here at number 2. We're going to learn a lot more about them when they play Kansas State. Now, Kansas State doesn't look as good as they did previously either. But Oklahoma, they look like the real deal. So I'm really looking forward to seeing them play going forward. At number 1, I have Georgia. Nobody else has anybody number 1. Georgia looks like at this point they will repeat as national champions. Nobody's even in their same league. It's basically the Georgia and everybody else so right now in college football. And that's really what you see every single season. There's maybe 2, 3 elite teams, and it's everybody else. And right now it's looking like it's Georgia and everybody else until proven otherwise. Now, maybe Alabama can get back to that level. Maybe Ohio State, Michigan, Oklahoma, USC can prove they're at that level. But as of right now, it is just the Georgia Bulldogs and everybody else. So that's my top 25. Let me know what your top 25 is down below. And I want to thank you all so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. God bless. Go Big Red.